When people think of smart water, a lot of times in this industry, they're referring to flow and pressure measurement and the data that can come from metering devices, and how that data can then provide actionable insights in a dashboard for you as the utility leader. But that's also happening on the wastewater side, and there's a lot of opportunity when it comes to analytics for wastewater systems. So today, I'm talking with Prabhu Chandrasekeran. He is Intelligent Water National Practice Leader for Arcadis. So let's jump right into that interview. So thank you so much for being here, Prabhu. We appreciate your time.
Hey, Bob, nice to see you again. So thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm glad to be here to discuss this fun and exciting topic that I'm really passionate about.
Yeah. Well, we know a lot about smart water in the drinking water sector. It's been talked about for so long, and it's obviously still happening in the wastewater sector, but it doesn't get as much limelight, I guess is probably the way to put it. Um, when it comes to your perspective, where have you seen the most success when it comes to analytics in wastewater plants or in wastewater treatment?
So it's a good question. Yeah, you're right about it. There has been lots of things going on in the smart water networks, smart networks. I think given that there was a lot of attention on the leakage in the UK market, which sort of drove a lot of these technology solutions in place. When it comes to wastewater, uh, majority of the times where I have seen this is for energy optimization. What I mean
Hmm.
by that is aeration, because oftentimes you notice that that's the most energy intensive activity for any wastewater treatment plants in general, just the wastewater industry itself. And there are lots of opportunities for wastewater treatment plants to improve how they manage the aeration process in itself. And I've started to notice um, treatment plants trying to play with, okay, we have, we want to improve how we are maintaining the aeration process, as well as in the process it can we also maintain the process stability, right? Maybe there are multiple ways to improve the process stability and gain improvements in energy savings, as well as sometimes in cost savings. That's the most area that I have seen, noticed many people wanting to do as well as have done in terms of applying machine learning, artificial intelligence solutions, or any type of data-driven solutions. I've even noticed that things like advanced process control or model predictive control as another solution to be used within wastewater treatment plants. And it makes sense personally, right? Okay, there's a value in investing the time and resources, whether it's manpower or technology investments, because I've seen anywhere from 1 to 3 years as a
Hmm.
payback for from an ROI perspective for these utilities to make some uh, value propositions for their
Hmm.
investments.
Yeah. So when you think about like the potential of these types of things, are there areas of wastewater optimization that you feel need some more time in the oven, so to speak? Where do you see that potential for this type of analytics? Like you mentioned the energy side of things, but there's so many more things in a wastewater plant, and there's such the flow is always just very different plant to plant. I would imagine that there's a lot of opportunity and potential when it comes to this type of analysis.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anytime, the way I see that is you want to look into what are your different areas of improvement, right? But
Hmm.
the better we have an understanding of decision-making process. What I mean by that, how do you make a decision in terms of, how much flow is coming into it? Oftentimes, a lot of your wastewater treatment plants are flow-based, load-based, or feedback control-based control scenarios. Are there opportunities in improving those situations to gain energy savings, cost savings, or even labor savings, or even better stability when it comes to how you run your operations? So those are the first things that I would consider. I mentioned the flow because depending on what kind of system you have, whether you have combined sewer system upstream
Hmm.
of the wastewater treatment plant or a sanitary, just a separate sewer system, having a better handle on what flows coming into it, as well as what type of loads you may want to see, depending on who your upstream discharging communities are, whether it is just residential or maybe you have industrial communities discharging into it. If you understand the dynamics of the wastewater characteristics, I see potential opportunities of applying machine learning systems or any type of data driven solutions to understand your flow characteristics. The better you understand the flow characteristics, the better you can manage what's happening within your wastewater treatment plant. That's just on just the wastewater treatment plant itself. But if you want to tap into situations where you have a reuse facility, post wastewater treatment plant, what's happening within your wastewater treatment plant has an impact on what's going to be happening at the reuse facility and how you are running your reuse facility. So that's why, as you keep expanding your boundary of focus area, then you start to realize and recognize there are several applications that we can tap into. Again, that would be my first step. To
Hmm.
answer the question, there are several opportunities. Having a better understanding of what flow coming into the plants, what characteristics they are, how that, what, given that we have intense storms right now, that's actually impacting how much flow coming into a treatment plant, right? So probably
Hmm.
you want to have a better understanding of that, either to have a situation where you are storing that within your collection systems or equalization or intensification as an approach for future planning. All those are phenomenal places where you can apply these machine learning solutions, which is going to give you a lot of benefits at the end of the day. And to me, when I say at the end of the day, it needs to support the operators who are managing,
Hmm.
right? They are the ones who are facing these challenges. Whatever the solution that we are working on, though there are several use cases available, it needs to ultimately meet the needs of the operators who, whose problems need to be solved, in my personal opinion.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned machine learning there, and I wanted to ask you a little bit more about that, but I also wanted to dig a little bit into the AI elements of things as well, because obviously AI has been a big buzzword just generally for the past like
Yes.
year, 18 months or so with generative AI in particular. So when it comes to these types of things, when it comes to machine learning, like you mentioned, the understanding your flows better, the characteristics of that flow, machine learning being able to parse that data faster and more effectively than humans generally can. Where does AI then fit into that picture as well? And like how where do you see those differentiating themselves from one another in wastewater like analytics?
Absolutely. I think there's been what AI and machine learning are being used interchangeably for now
Yeah.
for obvious reasons, which makes sense because machine learning is a sub element of artificial intelligence as a whole, as an umbrella
Hmm.
term. I would say Gen AI is a part of the AI umbrella. Machine learning, in simple terms, is a specific way of building a models. Your algorithms are built a certain way. There are several algorithms available depending on what problems you're trying to solve, what your data characteristics are. You have a test data and your training data and all of. So there is a certain way of doing these things. The place where I see I've noticed machine learning being successful is when you have a system that's too complex to understand, meaning you
Hmm.
don't have a mechanistic model that can quickly, easily describe your existing system because of the complexities, because you don't have enough information to mathematically develop a true first principles based model. And that's where machine learning models come into play. I've also seen a combination of machine learning models along with the mechanistic models being used in wastewater treatment applications. You can use the machine learning models sort of help you with the flow predictions and load predictions and whatnot, and use that information to backfeed into your mechanistic models to see what could have been a concentration corresponding to this kind of a load that I'm noticing here, and that I have seen in ways of what we call the soft sensors. That's
Hmm.
another value I see because you don't necessarily need to throw in a whole bunch of sensors to read everything, because when you do that, there is naturally an element of, who's going to maintain, who's going to pay for it. There is
Hmm.
that comes into play, right? So to avoid those situations, also bring additional value, you can use this hybrids models, machine learning models, which gives you information which can be fed into your first principles mechanistic models to generate readings that can be used as soft sensors. And
Hmm.
I've seen that being used for, to give operators an understanding of what's happening, which they didn't have before in unit operations, as well as times when their sensors are not working properly, they can quickly use this soft sensor as the way to control the plant until they go back and fix the physical sensor. So
Hmm.
they're using it for many purposes, and that's where I see machine learning. It's because we're talking mostly about the treatment side of things. Those are the ones that come to my mind. What we see as a machine learning application, and for the most part, I think that's what we've been using machine learning. I know we use the
Yeah.
term AI, but it's been mostly machine learning.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you were to like postulate or think about the future, obviously AI is not going away. It's only going to like increase in its usage and whatnot. How do you see these tools potentially changing the way that we do business in the water and the wastewater industry? When it comes to both ML and AI, like what do you think about that? Like in 5 years, 10 years, like is that too is it going to happen too fast that it's too hard to like postulate, or do you have some ideas of on where you think people are going to be taking this?
I definitely see that machine learning will become a common aspect of it. I'm
Hmm.
saying this because if you think about it, I know I'm looking back, right? I saw that question before. I was thinking about what was 5 years ago and how different things are
Hmm.
from from what it used to be 5 years ago. We have made some progress. I wouldn't say we have made a tremendous progress in the water industry in terms of applying and testing these solutions, um, and that's mainly because of some things that are not fully taken into consideration. First, I would say awareness of how these things work.
Hmm.
There's a lot of misunderstanding about what machine learning is, how you can actually scale those applications. There are a lot of utilities who have done pilot studies and whatnot, but when it comes to scaling, you need to focus more on the data management aspects of it. And there are a few utilities I've talked to. They they are now focusing on bringing they're now focusing on having a better data management that supports implementation of machine learning solutions. So I think that's where I see the industry is going, at least from these initial pilot work that I have seen and what the utilities have come to learn from it. In 5 years, I'm assuming everybody has some plan to manage data, have a better understanding of how do we need to set this IT OT infrastructure that's going to allow us to do these machine learning projects. In
Hmm.
10 years, I'm seeing probably, okay, then they are in a place where they are starting to build a machine learning models and they deploy it into their systems and test these things. I think that's how I see it. But definitely in 10 years, we will start to see more of machine learning for many reasons. One, I'm hoping the utilities are starting to recognize that there is a value that
Hmm.
can come out of it, and they also prepare themselves, not from an IT OT infrastructure perspective, but also from the perspective of workforce. There is an element of upskilling need to happen, whether bringing an awareness, additional awareness of these concepts, or as well as creating experts in these fields within the organization, are able to tap into experts outside the organization. And the other one that I'm starting to see is automation providers, right? Your quote unquote technical, I mean, the conventional ones, the PLC manufacturers and all of them, they are starting to bring these solutions natively into their systems.
Hmm.
So, which I see this as a positive thing because the more of that becoming available to utilities, especially in systems where the operators are used to, the more adoption we will see in the future. So that's how I see things evolving naturally in 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that you framed it by like thinking about what was it like 5 years ago because it really like it helps put in perspective how quickly some of this stuff has moved when you think about like generative AI wasn't even like a thing 5 years ago, right? So it
Yeah.
just shows how rapidly things are moving in this arena. So I appreciated that like framing of it all.
I'm glad you mentioned because I people ask me questions like, are we doing a lot? What do you think about how things have changed? I say, we have moved, but I think we have a lot more work to do. We have learned
Hmm.
quite a bit in the last 5 years. There have been a lot of hype going around. My based on my interactions with the clients, having seen who has done what, these initial pilot work has definitely opened up our eyes in terms of what is important, what is lacking, what's working, what's not working, and how much of the workforce and the awareness aspects need to be brought to the center stage, not so much on the technical aspects of it, which can be solved at any time through any solution. And the Gen AI definitely has uh, brought the AI into mainstream. I think
Hmm.
has started to think about it, having been exposed to Gen AI, how it can help. And I'm also starting to see Gen AI being used in the water industry too, right? I mean, I was talking to somebody, a vendor who was actually bringing in um, LLMs basically for knowledge graphs and use that to spit conversational responses to maintenance folks.
Hmm.
Basically looking into their existing data systems, like, okay, when was this pump being last time maintained? What was the
Hmm.
last work order on? What's going on? Where can I find the SOPs for maintaining these asset systems and whatnot? So there is a positive thing that's
Hmm.
happening in the industry, the awareness, and just personally being engaged in the couple of the Water Research Foundation projects. One of the goals is actually to bring more awareness to everybody, so that at least people are starting to get an understanding of, okay, this is what it is, this is what it is not, and the framework that
Hmm.
we're going to be developing from that through that AI machine learning project will help utilities to actually think about these are the questions that we need to be asking as we plan for any AI machine learning applications within water.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Prabhu. I appreciate you taking the time and chatting with me, and it's just fun to think about what we're doing now, knowing what it was like only 5 years ago, and then just the future looks very interesting. I think when we when we apply what we currently know and understand that there's a lot of potential to still be captured. So I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you for the opportunity.
And for everyone who's watching, check out our video description below. We'll have some links to some other wastewater analytics and AI machine learning content down there for you.